no place like the Cube. Family, it's your favorite queer radio personality, Anna DeShawn, and this is Queer News, your favorite weekly news pod where race and sexuality meet politics, culture, and entertainment.
You need to begin with a movement, which is what Black Power and the Civil Rights Movement was. Then, immediately within it, you are going to get those people whose differences are not being articulated, which is, right, us. So then there is immediately another step.
I believe we are firmly cemented in that other step right now, in this moment. If you don't recognize that voice, it is the Black lesbian mother, warrior, poet, Audre Lorde, being interviewed about being a lesbian in the 50s here in America. I've been finding refuge, yes, in the stories of my ancestors who made it through some of the darkest and most evil times of this country. I want to keep learning. I want to keep studying them because they survived, and we will too. Also, family, don't forget the Queer News tip line is open, okay? Send me your stories. A link is in the show notes. And Q Crew, what's going on? I can't thank you enough always. I really, truly cannot thank you enough always for your support of this here podcast. Your support helps us with the hosting, the editing, the marketing, the PR, the travel. And if you're not part of the Q Crew, and you believe in this work that we do, if you believe LGBTQ stories need to be amplified, if you love and respect how I report on the news and tell our stories, then join the Q Crew. As low as $5 a month. A link is in the show notes. Now for the news. We remember trans pioneer Sir Lady Java today. Also, family and politics, I'm still over that election. Can we start there? But there were a lot of wins for LGBTQ folks across the country, and it is my job and my duty, okay, to tell y'all all about that. So let's do a rundown. In culture, y'all remember the story about Nex Benedict? Well, the school district has been found to have violated multiple Title IX violations. We're gonna get into that. A group of fraternity bros decided to commit a hate crime. It's disgusting. I gotta share that too. And let's talk about the LGBTQ folks nominated for Grammys this year. Well, in 2025. Let's go. Family, our top story today is about Sir Lady Java. Do you all know who Sir Lady Java is? I know I didn't before starting this podcast 3 years ago, which I think is the reason why this podcast continues to be important and why it continues to be important for us to tell our stories. Sir Lady Java was a trans pioneer, a groundbreaker within entertainment. She is an icon. Do you understand? She was a Black trans entertainer in the 60s. On television, in film. She ran in circles with people like Richard Pryor and Lena Horne, Sammy Davis Jr. I mean, she was making history before other trans folks were even born. Like, this is before people thought trans folks even existed. Do you know what I mean? She was that. And let me tell you, if you go Google, you will see just how beautiful, I mean, flawless she was out here moving in the world that was not safe for her. She was known for challenging Rule Number 9, which was a law that specifically targeted transgender performers. It said that you had to have a license or a permit, is what they would call it, a specialized permit to perform as a cross-dresser. And she protested that thing, okay? Out and about with her signs protesting for her rights and for those she knew would come after her. Now, she didn't win that particular fight, but she brought so much attention to the issue. Sir Lady Java passed away at 81. And we heard the announcement on Threads by Haley Sahar. Now, you may remember Haley from Pose. Yeah. And she made a video because there had been some reports that Sir Lady Java had passed away and she hadn't yet. And so she did a video and shared her experience. And I didn't know any of this that she shared, but for the last 2 years, she had voluntarily become her caretaker along with a team of folks that they assembled. And she said this: "The moment I met you, my entire world shifted. You brought light to my darkest corners, hope to the places I thought barren, and love I never believed I deserved. You didn't just enter my life, you transformed it, leaving an imprint on my soul that will last forever." Sir Lady Java passed away on November 16th, and we will remember her on this podcast. And I'm going to do a video about her because more people need to know who Sir Lady Java was and the groundbreaking work that she did in entertainment. The folks that we know today would not have even had a path had Sir Lady Java not done the work she done. And I was a bit disheartened too, can I share this? That when I began to Google Sir Lady Java and her passing, not a single story came up. Not a single story. What came up was the Threads by Haley Sahar. I just continue to be reminded why it's so incredibly important for us to tell our stories, because literally nobody else will. Sir Lady Java, we speak your name today. All right, family, let's jump into some politics today. I'm still not over that election. Nope, I sure am not. Over the last few months, maybe even the last year on this podcast, I've been saying we need to be prepared, get ready. We don't know what's coming. And here we are, headed into a time where MAGA Republicans are leading the White House, the Senate, the House of Representatives, and the Supreme Court. My God, I hope y'all are ready to lean into community and find your people and get off the internet and protect yourselves. I hope last week's episode was helpful to you. I know it was helpful for me. But today, I want to talk about the wins that the community had also during that election. Yes, we voted for the president, but Chile, my ballot was long. I had 2 ballots here in Illinois, okay, front and back. Judges, Senate. We were electing school boards for the first time here in the city. And so today I want to talk about some wins. Can we do that? Yes, we can. One win, 86% of LGBTQ folks voted for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. That is a win. Okay, we got a lot of LGBTQ Republicans, okay, in the community, and the data shows there was a shift, There was a shift from Republican to Democrat in this election for LGBTQ folks. That's a win, and that's important. Now, let me run these other wins down. This is brought to you by LPAC. If you're not familiar with LPAC, go check out LPAC, all right? They support and broadcast LGBTQ news happening politically, and they specifically support lesbians in politics. Now, let's go run down some victories. Julie Johnson in Texas became the first out LGBTQ person elected to Congress from the South. Gabby Salinas in Tennessee became the first out LGBTQ woman elected to the legislature there. Yes, Amy in Iowa became the first out trans person elected to the Iowa legislature. Wick Thomas in Missouri became the first out non-binary person elected to the legislature. Katori in Kentucky became the first out LGBTQ plus woman elected to the state Senate. Kristen in Wisconsin became the first out LGBTQ woman elected to the Senate. And there's more. LPAC, I thank you for this. Emma Curtis in Kentucky became the second out trans person elected in the state. Here in Illinois, Tammy Baldwin won re-election, protecting LGBTQ plus representation in the U.S. Senate. Molly Cook in Texas won election to a full term as the first and only out LGBTQ plus member of the state Senate. Sharice Davis Yes, we love Sharice Davis here in Kansas, remains the only out LGBTQ plus Native American in Congress. Tippy McCullough in Arkansas remains the only LGBTQ plus member in their legislature. Yes, Lisa out of North Carolina remains the only out LGBTQ plus member of the North Carolina State Senate. And there's more. Come on, LPAC. Come on, give us something to celebrate, okay? Because the times is hard. Probably the biggest win for LGBTQ folks in this election was Sarah McBride. If y'all have not heard about Sarah McBride, you should. Yes, out of Delaware, she became the first openly transgender member of Congress. Yes, she did. Emily Randall out of Washington State became the first out LGBTQ Latina in Congress. Representative Angie Craig in Minnesota kept her seat in the House and remains the first and only out LGBTQ plus member of Congress. Representative Becca in Vermont kept her seat in the House and remains the only woman and out LGBTQ plus person to represent Vermont in Congress. And then here in Illinois, Precious Brady Davis became the first out Black trans woman elected to office in Cook County. And the last win that I want to share with y'all is a real special one. It's about Representative Zoe Zephyr out of Montana. Now, Zoe is the first trans woman to serve in the Montana State Legislature. Yeah, and she won her re-election with 80% of the vote in Montana. She is in like the bluest spot in Montana, like in the whole state. And you may remember that I talked about Zoe back in April of 2023, if you've been listening to the pod for a while, where I shared that the Republican-dominated House silenced her for speaking out against a ban on gender-affirming care for youth, like literally silenced her. Well, now she'll be able to speak, and participate in floor debates again. Now, by the time she arrives back in the House, it would have been nearly 2 years since they silenced her. And nothing is more powerful than coming back with 80% of the vote from your constituents. Come on, Zoe, come on. Yo, family, I just ran those down. Thank you, LPAC, again for listing this all on your Instagram and informing the people. I'm here to amplify because I'm sure y'all have not heard about all those wins. It has been depressing. The reality of the today has been absolutely depressing. No doubt about it. But we cannot negate the wins that did happen and the movement that will continue to grow with organizations like the Victory Fund supporting LGBTQ folks interested in running for office. All hope is not lost, but we are headed into some very dark days. And this is the time where we really do have to lean into community because we are all we got. Truly. Now, our next story is a bit of a follow-up, and it's a really important one. If you've been listening to this podcast for a while, you remember how I reported about Nex Benedict. And if you haven't been listening to this podcast, maybe you remember the story about Nex. Nex was a student. They were historically bullied at their school in Oklahoma. And then they were actually beaten up in a bathroom there by some high school girls and subsequently died from the injuries. Now, there's lots of other things in between that story that happened that I reported on. But at the end of the day, Nex Benedict was a queer youth at this high school who was not protected. They did not protect Nex. But what happened was there was an investigation, right, surrounding their death, and HRC filed a complaint because the investigation showed that the school was not negligent in what happened. Chile, I was hot, okay? I was hot when all of that came out. But HRC filed a complaint with the U.S. Department of Education's Office for Civil Rights. And recently, they just released the report detailing a pattern of inconsistent responses to sexual harassment complaints within the Owasso Public School District. Now, this is the district that Nex was part of, right, while going to school. Now, the investigation found that the district failed to take appropriate action to address these issues, including the harassment that Nex faced. They actually called it deliberate indifference. Deliberate indifference. HRC's President Kelly Robinson said this: today's resolution agreement from the U.S. Department of Education leaves no doubt the Owasso School District failed Nex Benedict and many other vulnerable students in their care. Okay. Yes, this report highlighted multiple instances of negligence, including the district's failure to conduct a proper Title IX investigation into the fight that preceded Nex's death. And despite multiple complaints about bullying and harassment targeting Nex, the district failed to take any steps to address the situation. Now get this, family. I love this so much. The U.S. Department of Education's Office of Civil Rights outlined a number of things that the Owasso School District has to do now as part of this resolution agreement. Y'all ready for me to run this down? They about to be so busy, they ain't gonna have time to hate on queer folks. Let me tell you what they got to do. They are requiring the school district to follow up with parents of students affected by harassment to advise them of their rights to file claims of discrimination under Title IX. So they got to tell people what happened and tell them that they can then file a report against them. How about that? They have to make public anti-harassment and non-discrimination statements to the public. They have to revise its policies to be in compliance with Title IX. They have to provide training on Title IX to school staff and students. They have to conduct a school climate survey. They have to review all student complaints filed within the prior 3 years and audit complaints over the next 2 years. And they have to ensure that incidents are properly documented and records are preserved. Chile, like I said, they ain't gonna have time. They won't have time to hate on queer folks in that school district for a very long time. I appreciate HRC for filing this complaint when the investigation failed Nex Benedict and their family. Next, we remember you today. And now, why don't we take a break? Because that was a lot. Yes, that was a lot. So let's take a quick break, and when we get back, let's jump into some culture and entertainment.
Need health insurance? It's open enrollment for the Get Covered Illinois Marketplace. Our navigators will help you enroll in a health plan, and you could qualify for financial help. Visit getcoveredillinois.gov to enroll by December 15th for coverage starting January 1st.
If you're listening to this, it means we didn't sell this ad space. If you're listening to this, it means running ads on our podcast can actually work. You see what I did there? Do you need some promo? A little amplification? Hit us up at info@e3radio.fm. That's info@e3radio.fm. We have a platform. You should use it. Family, welcome back to the show. Now let's jump into some culture and entertainment news. This first story I saw for the first time on Instagram by Here's Why with Kevin. If you don't follow Kevin on Instagram or YouTube, definitely do that. He has committed himself to sharing social, political, and pop culture commentary about queer folks. And he does it in a really beautiful and honest way. And I really enjoy Kevin's work. And I saw this story there first. And it's about 15, yes, count them, 15 college students decided to commit a hate crime. And let me run it down for you. They were all part of the Sigma Alpha Epsilon fraternity. Okay. Now, for some reason, they decided to create a Grindr account to lure this particular student to this apartment that was just off of the university's campus. Now, the university they all attended was Salisbury University. Okay. And they lured him in for sex. I mean, this is why so many people use Grindr, right? And when he arrived, they literally took him. They said they would have sat him down. They beat him up. They spit on him. They yelled at him, yelling homophobic slurs. Every time he tried to get back up, they would beat him back down. They hit him and beat him with a cookie sheet. And you know what they did that was really idiotic? They video recorded the entire thing. Yeah, you heard me right. They literally video recorded the entire thing. There's a quote from the video. It says, "Why are you getting up? Why are you getting up? make one more move and I swear I'm going to punch the out of you, bro. One of the suspects said, right? Get back down, lay down, lay down, lay down, or I'm going to punch the out of you. Like, this is real. Like, they decided to lure him in just to beat him up and commit a hate crime. What I appreciate about the response, though, was that it was swift. Okay? Swift. And the only reason that young man got out of there is that he was able to eventually escape it. They didn't let him go. He escaped it. Now, the university have suspended these 15 young men. They aren't allowed on campus property. They can't take classes online or virtual, and they can't attend any university-sponsored events. Okay? Now, as far as the fraternity is concerned, they also move swiftly, and they have expelled all of them from the fraternity. The fraternity said in a statement, Sigma Alpha Epsilon condemns hate and violence in any form, and we are disappointed that members of our chapter were involved in such an act. Now, charges have been filed against the 15 young men. And you know what's wild to me too is that this is going to follow them for the rest of their lives. There is no way they are getting out of being charged for this hate crime. All of these young men are 18, 19, and 20 years old. When I hear an update about this investigation, I will come back with a follow-up story. The victim of this hate crime suffered a broken rib and was treated at the hospital, and then the hospital filed the report. Whew. And family, you listening to this podcast, I just want you to be careful out here. I want you to be careful. We are in the Trump era of this country, and he has empowered hateful people to do hateful things. They are not only empowered, they feel protected. So if you're on these dating apps, you out here in the streets, do your thing. I just want you to be safe. I just want you to be safe, okay? All right. Glad we had that talk. All right, family. For our last story today, I want to talk about the queers that were nominated for Grammys. Yes, because we love us some art. And I love me some music. And I was so excited to see that Durand Bernard, and if you have never heard of Durand, go to NPR's Tiny Desk and watch Durand's Tiny Desk performance. Once you watch that, you will be forever hooked, and you will go about the business of following him absolutely everywhere. Durand is a talent, you understand? And he earned his very first Grammy nomination for Best Progressive R&B Album, En Route. Yeah. Now, Durand also has sung backup for Erykah Badu for many years. And in 2019, he was part of BET's reality series, The Next Big Thing. I am so proud of him. Okay. Now, other queer artists that were nominated for Grammys, Chappell Roan is coming through with 6 nominations. Billie Eilish is coming through with 7 nominations. St. Vincent's got 4 nominations. And then we've got Kaytranada and Doechii, yes, coming through with nominations as well. I'm so proud of these queer artists who are out here being who they are, singing lyrics that they want to sing, yes, and making good music. Making good music and reaching their audience. I love it. I'm here for it, okay? I hope they win a lot of Grammys. Family, you know what time it is. It's time for Anna's Got a Word, because Anna's always got a word. And the word today is tell your stories. That's what I want you to do, okay? I want you to tell your story. This past weekend, I taught my first How to Podcast workshop. That was 2 days. I taught 4 hours each day at Sisters in Cinema. And I've given classes or done a workshop for like an hour or hour and a half, but never 2 days, never 4 hours each day. And the class was packed. Y'all, we sold out the class. The goal was to get 25 folks. We had 25 people, which means more than 25 people registered for this thing, because the number of people who register versus people who show up is always a difference. And this class was free. It was offered for free at Sisters in Cinema. And they filled me up so much. They came there wanting to tell their stories. They came there wanting to know how to do it and how to do it well. We even did an exercise, broke them out into groups. Some people knew each other, some people didn't. And they worked together to tell the story that they wanted to tell. And let me tell you something. Storytelling is critical to our survival. Because if we don't tell our stories, they won't remember we were here. That's how this works. We know this to be true because there are some amazing, powerful people in history whose sexuality was intentionally left out the story. So we have to intentionally leave it in the story because we know queer folks are going to be here forever and ever and ever and ever. You understand? And there's no time like the present to begin telling your story. So don't hesitate. Learn the skills you need. Focus in. Be specific. And tell your story. The canon needs you. You feel me? All right, family. Oh, it's been good to talk to you. I needed to talk to you. This podcast brings me joy. And it's therapy for me. It helps me to process. It helps me to keep a glass half full when the storylines and the headlines try to remind me that I should be half empty. But when it comes to community, when it comes to y'all, I am totally filled up. So you go have a great week, okay? And I'll talk to y'all next week. Peace. If you've enjoyed what you heard, rate and review us inside your favorite podcasting app. This podcast is written and produced by me, Anna DeShawn. Podcast editing by Ryan Woodhall. And brought to you by E3 Radio and distributed on The Cube. We are Queer News Done Right.